What if I told you that the moment an empath finally says no is the moment everything changes? Not just for them, but for everyone who thought they could take advantage of their kindness forever. Stay with me, because what Carl Jung discovered about psychological boundaries will completely transform how you understand personal power. Carl Jung said that boundaries are not walls, they're bridges to authentic selfhood. And nowhere is this more critical than for the empath who has spent their entire life absorbing everyone else's emotions while neglecting their own needs. Here's what most people don't understand about empaths and boundaries. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll see why this is the most powerful transformation a person can make. According to Carl Jung, the psyche requires what he called psychological containers. Without boundaries, we become what Jung termed psychologically porous, absorbing everything around us until we lose our sense of self entirely. But when an empath finally builds healthy boundaries, something extraordinary happens. They don't become cold or closed off. They become what Jung called consciously contained, and this changes everything. Empaths live in what Jung identified as a state of undifferentiated empathy. They feel what others feel so intensely that they lose track of where they end and others begin. This isn't just sensitivity, it's what Jung called dissolution of ego boundaries. They carry other people's pain, other people's problems, other people's emotions as if they were their own. But here's where it gets absolutely fascinating, and why building boundaries becomes an act of psychological revolution. Carl Jung discovered that when someone establishes healthy boundaries, they undergo what he termed ego fortification. This isn't about becoming selfish, it's about reclaiming psychological sovereignty. The empath, who has been everyone's emotional dumping ground, suddenly realizes they have a choice. They can choose what energy they allow into their space. They can choose which battles are actually theirs to fight. They can choose to protect their emotional resources the way they would protect anything else valuable in their life. Listen carefully to what happens next, because this is where the transformation becomes visible to everyone around them. According to Jung's theory of individuation, establishing boundaries is not about rejection, it's about selection. When an empath starts building healthy boundaries, they begin to practice what Jung called conscious discrimination. They stop saying yes to everything and everyone. They stop apologizing for their needs. They stop sacrificing themselves on the altar of other people's comfort. And the people who benefited from their boundaryless existence, they panic. Here's what Jung understood that most people miss. Boundaries reveal who truly values you and who was simply using you. The empath who sets boundaries becomes what Jung termed a psychological mirror. They reflect back the truth of every relationship. Those who respect boundaries stay and deepen the connection. Those who resist boundaries reveal their true nature. They weren't loving the empath, they were consuming them. Carl Jung said that healthy boundaries create what he called sacred psychological space. When an empath finally establishes this space, they experience something profound. They start to hear their own thoughts again. They start to feel their own emotions separate from everyone else's. They begin to understand what they actually want, not what everyone else needs from them. This is what Jung called the emergence of authentic selfhood, and it's absolutely life-changing. But here's where it becomes even more powerful, and why narcissists and energy vampires fear this transformation more than anything. According to Carl Jung, boundaries are not just protective, they're creative. When an empath reclaims their energy from toxic people and situations, that energy becomes available for their own growth, their own dreams, their own life. Jung discovered that the most profound transformations happen when someone stops leaking energy through poor boundaries and starts directing that energy towards self-actualization. The empath who once exhausted themselves fixing everyone else's problems suddenly has energy for their own goals. The one who was always available for everyone else's crises finally has time for their own healing. The one who absorbed everyone's negativity starts cultivating their own inner peace. This isn't selfishness. Jung called this appropriate self-care, the foundation of all psychological health. Here's what happens next, and it will completely change how you see personal transformation. Carl Jung observed that when someone establishes healthy boundaries, they trigger what he called relationship recalibration. Every connection in their life gets tested. Family members who relied on their endless giving must learn to respect their limits. Friends who only called during crises must learn to show up during good times too. Romantic partners who took their devotion for granted must learn to reciprocate or leave. This process, Jung noted, is painful but necessary. The empath discovers who was in their life because they genuinely cared, and who was there because they were useful. Some relationships survive this recalibration and become stronger. Others dissolve, revealing they were built on exploitation rather than mutual respect. Jung called this the purification of the relational field, and while it hurts, it clears space for authentic connections. But the most powerful transformation happens within the empath themselves. According to Carl Jung, boundaries teach us what he called self-worth through action. Every time an empath says no to what depletes them, they say yes to themselves. Every time they refuse to absorb someone else's chaos, they choose their own peace. Every time they walk away from toxicity, they walk toward wholeness. This is what Jung termed behavioral self-validation. The empath stops waiting for others to value them and starts demonstrating their own value through their choices. Jung discovered that people who maintain healthy boundaries develop what he called psychological immunity. They become resistant to manipulation, immune to guilt-tripping, impervious to gaslighting. Why? Because their sense of self is no longer dependent on external validation. They know their worth, they trust their perceptions, they honor their needs. This is the individuated empath, and they're absolutely unstoppable. Here's the final piece that makes this transformation complete. Carl Jung said that the highest form of compassion comes not from sacrifice, but from wholeness. The empath with healthy boundaries doesn't love less, they love better. They give from overflow, not from depletion. They help from strength, not from compulsion. They care from choice, not from conditioning. This is what Jung called mature empathy, and it's far more powerful than the boundaryless compassion that leaves the empath drained and resentful. The fully boundaried empath becomes what Jung termed a force of balanced power. They maintain their sensitivity, but protect their energy. They keep their compassion, but direct it wisely. They preserve their kindness, but pair it with discernment. They are living proof of Jung's greatest insight, that true strength comes not from hardening your heart, but from guarding it carefully. This is what happens when an empath builds healthy boundaries. They don't become less. They become more authentic, more powerful, more whole, more themselves than they've ever been. And once you understand this, you'll never see boundaries as walls again. You'll see them for what they truly are, the foundation of all genuine connection, and the gateway to becoming who you were always meant to be.